Well, Dr. Alem, thank you for taking this time to answer a couple questions. Like I mentioned in our previous interaction, I had an interview with Pastor Pise, Dr. Pise Sangtam, about a week ago. I interviewed him. I known him since about 14 years. Actually, I was in Nagaland for
I
Jubilee
see.
in 2011 in Yangli.
I see.
Yeah, so I was there.
I see.
We preached for the Youth Jubilee. I believe that's what it was. And so I really have really good memories of Nagaland and Yangli, Dimapur, and all those areas. So thank you for being with us in this interview. And I was wondering if you can start off by sharing with us, like, where you are in your walk right now, as far as your profession and maybe even your walk with the Lord. How are you doing right now? Can you share with us a little bit? Introduce yourself and share with us a little bit.
Okay. Um, right now I'm in Dimapur, which is the main city, metropolitan city in Nagaland. Yeah, and I was actually I was in the seminary teaching in the theological college for quite some time, and then yeah, I was called to serve in a church. So, well, changing the ministry from academic to the pastoral ministry, actually, it's a totally different. And when the church approached me to become as an assistant pastor in my church, that is called Dimapur Sangtam Baptist Church, which is a main church among the Sangtam in Dimapur. So actually, I was praying to the Lord, if it is the will of God, I can go, or else I want to stay in my profession because I enjoy in teaching. And as I waited for the Lord and praying, and the Lord answered me clearly that to change my ministry from the academic to the church. So I resigned from the institution, from the seminary, and then I joined. Just yesterday, I installed as a pastor in the Sangam Baptist Church, Dimapur.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you, Dr. Allen, for sharing that. Tell us, please, where are you from? Are you from Dimapur? How long were you in the academy? How long were you teaching at the seminary? If you want to share your age with us, maybe so
Sure.
people can get to know a little bit more about your personal life.
Okay. I was uh, I was born and brought up from Dimapur itself, even though I belongs to Sangtam community.
Hmm.
And the Sangtams comes from the two provinces or district in Nagaland, that is Timsang and Kipri. So, but whereas for me, I stay and born and brought up from Dimapur. And then my theological journey, I started in the year 1995. I started my theological journey. And then after the completion of my MD, Master of Divinity, I served in my association run theological college. That is at Yangli, where you visited last few years back. So at Oriental Theological College, I was teaching for a few years. And then I went for my further study and THM and came back and served there as a principal in the Oriental Theological College. And if you come on 2011, then I think I was there at the time at
Mm.
Yangbi, but I'm not quite sure whether we met and had an interaction or no. Yeah, and then after which again I went for my higher study in 2016 for my PhD and mission department in South Korea at Yonsei University. And 2019, I completed my course and I came back. And right now I'm staying in Dimapur and I was teaching at Discipleship Bible College in Dimapur. That is, Discipleship Bible College is one of the most promising theological colleges in Nagaland. We have got around 400 students. It's a big number. And I was teaching over there. But yeah, and I got married. I have a three children, one daughter and two sons. And now, yeah, we are enjoying a sweet family by the grace of God. We are being so blessed in ministry, even in the family.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Allen, for sharing with us. What was your favorite subject, or what did you teach at the institute?
I thought mission. My department is a mission department.
Missions. Okay, that is very good. I know that Nagaland is very strategic place to be for missions because you are right there in the northeast of India, and there's Myanmar, and there's different places even south of China and other places where there's a lot of mission work that even into India that can be done from Nagaland for sure. So I appreciate that aspect. So if we go into a little bit of the questions, and feel free to answer them as openly as you can, or if there's some things that you wish not to share about, that's fine. But maybe if you can share a moment from your teaching that deeply impacted you or your students, like a particular moment, or maybe there was a semester, or maybe there was a student that you thought was like someone that was truly going that there was something about him or her that God was going to use. So something along those lines, a moment or a particular person that in from your teaching that deeply impacted you or your students.
Yeah. Uh, as the statements usually we say is that teaching is a noble job. So I really enjoyed. It's a noble job. Now, teacher play a crucial role in shaping the student's life.
Mm,
So influencing not only that academic development, but also their personal growth and character formation, which is a very important for the teachers to shape and train the students. So beyond the classroom, teachers often serve as a mentor, as a guide, as a role model.
mm,
So this is what beyond the classroom, beyond the curriculum. So I try to create a room where the students can express themselves, share their concerns, their problems, their difficulties, and sometimes their needs, and sometimes they need a guidance, their prayer support. Likewise, that's how the teachers, and as I was teaching the institution, that's how I carry on, and I try to impact in my teaching ministry to the students, listening students' problems attentively. It's also a kind of an offering, a kind of an encouragement to them to understand the students' problems and needs. Those are the things that I employed in my teaching ministry.
thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Alam. Uh, Another question that I had for you is, how do you integrate then real world issues into your theological teachings? And I think when you're dealing with missions, the missions world is always changing, right? This is something that is always changing. We have basics in missiology, but in reality, people are always changing, communities are always changing, cultures are constantly changing. So how do you integrate real world issues into your theological teachings, understanding that cultures, especially in the mission world, things are always changing. So how do you integrate that real world issues into your theological teachings?
That is very interesting question, actually. It's a very interesting question. Yeah, well, world issues and theological or missions, these two are meant to be kept together because the Bible and the world can't separate each other.
Mm,
We have to live together. So whether we like it or not, we have to deal the issues, and we can't be a mute spectator. For example, I'm a theological trained, or I'm a student, or I'm a professor teaching in a theological institution. Doesn't mean that when the problems are going on in the world, We can't be just a mute spectator and say hallelujah, praise the Lord all the time. But we have to deal the issues in the classroom and outside of the classroom. We have to sometimes stand in the truth, and we have to speak out the truth. And this is very important. um, and then sometimes, in the classroom, I usually teach interactive approach of teaching method. So the students, they raise the questions, they raise the current issues, the problems that are happening in the world, within in our context, within in our states. So actually, we deal with those issues, and we really enjoy by interacting. And I used to encourage that we should not be just a mute spectator. Sometimes we have to raise the voice, but we have to be very wise enough to deal and respond and approach to the world. That's how actually I employ it in my teaching and I integrate.
Thank you. That's a great answer. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Also, there's a there's a lot of misconceptions about seminary education. You know, uh, there's maybe not in Nagaland, but I'm gonna speak maybe from my seminary experience and my in my context. But there's a lot of misconceptions about, why you go to seminary, what the, what to expect after seminary, graduating, or even the reasons for pursuing a career or pursuing an education at a seminary. And also, there's a lot of misconceptions about what seminary prepares you to do. So, what could you tell us then? What's a common misconception that you have seen, maybe when you were in Yangli or at your other post in was it Dimapur? In Dimapur, right? So maybe what's a common misconception about missionary education that maybe you would like to address that you haven't addressed in the past, or maybe you have, but you can share with us today?
Sure. Actually, this is a very relevant question. At the same time, the issues that are prevailing right now in Nagaland, in my state.
Okay.
Um, in Nagaland Post, we have a very prominent Nagaland Post in media. May 6th, that is this month on 6 May 2024, there is one garden
Mhm.
graffiti in a garden. Is written in this way. Um, his grade is such that he won't get admission even to the theological college. I hope you are getting me.
Yes.
His grade is such low that he even can get an admission in a theological seminary. Why?
So
Because
can I explain that
just
maybe for the audience? So
yeah,
what that's saying is, like, even seminary is like the lowest, and you won't get into seminary, right? That's
um,
what that's saying. Like,
uh,
your grade is so low that
yes,
even seminary won't accept you because supposedly
won't accept.
it's the easiest to get in. Maybe am I getting?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So what was going on here is just a couple of weeks back, there was a 10 plus 2 and high school, middle school result was declared just a couple of weeks back.
Mm.
And then in the cartoon, in the newspaper, they make a jokes that even your grade is such a low that even the seminary or even you won't get admission even to the theological seminary.
Mm.
The way the job is just like all the seminary students, those who are studying in the theological colleges or seminaries, are those who got a very low grade. That means they don't have any standard at all. So that's how they actually joked. So it's really often that seminarians, the theologians, and the colleges. And now, right now, in Nagaland, we have around say approximate around 50 seminaries, theological seminaries in Nagaland.
50.
Even though it's a small state,
Yes.
yes, even though it's a small state, yet we have a good number of theological seminaries. Why? Because in India, especially in North India, there are a lot of persecutions. And even the theological institution, even if they're run and open, it's very difficult to survive due
Mm,
to the persecutions and trials. Whereas the Nagaland is the state where we consider as a Christian state. So the persecutions and trials are by the grace of God. There's no such persecutions out here in Nagaland. It's a very safe place for the Christians in Nagaland. That's why there are many institutions, seminaries, theological seminaries, and many parts of the India come to the Nagaland to pursue their higher study or theological studies. So this is what is going on right now in Nagaland.
mm,
Now, the people had a misconception that since we have so many colleges and people, those who are studying in the theological colleges, did not get a good grade in their secular academic. That's why there's no chance and way to go for their science streams or, a kind of a commerce or kind of some political science. They can't go in their that line for the higher studies. That's why they come into the theological college. That's what people had a misconception. Anyway, that's what I apprehend and we understand that one. Now, I am right now as a president of the Nagaland Theological Colleges Association.
okay.
So when we saw that graffiti, that cartoon in the newspaper, actually we were deeply disappointed by that such kind of jokes in a very prominent Nagaland post. And this media is not only in Nagaland, but it goes all over India and even outside. So this was a very disappointing, and we were so much disappointed. So that's how they really uh, destroyed the image of the seminary,
Mm,
and we were so disappointed and dismayed in that. So what we Nagaland Theological Colleges Association actually we responded to the Nagaland Post in the media that uh, the misunderstanding of the workers, academic standards that values upheld by the theological seminary. And as an institution committed to nurturing intellectual curiosity, fostering the critical thinking and promoting the holistic education. So
mm,
theological colleges or seminary has a long-standing tradition for tradition of admitting students based on their academic potentials, characters, and dedications to serve the Lord. So we not only focus on one area, but we also check the students, in their potentiality, academic potentiality, in their character, in their dedication and commitment to the Lord. So we don't just take it students easily and you know join in the seminary. So that's how actually we give feedback to them. So many people think that seminary, they degrade and low standard, but actually it's a seminary where we produce the scholars, where we produce the great preachers and missionaries and the teachers and pastors who preach and teach to the scientists, to the politicians,
mm.
to the leaders. So that's is the actually how we responded, and that's is our stand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think this question was really in your heart to answer. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
just know.
I think even in the United States here, it's a big misconception that, oh, you have nothing else to do, that's why you're going to seminary, or it's so easy. But I mean, I can attest that being an NDIP student and how intense it is, like learning different, like the Greek language or the basics of the Hebrew language, or learning about just the historical context and New Testament, Old Testament, just understanding what the the deepness of what the Word of God is teaching us, and but making all of that as difficult as it is to understand in the academic role, and to present it in a way that is practical for people to use from Sunday to Sunday, for people to use in their daily lives, for people to grow. And I can attest to the fact that seminary is not easy. So for the people that think that seminary is easy, I say uh, if you have a calling from God, pursue seminary. If you don't have a calling from God, it will make your life very difficult because uh, I believe too. I don't know what the Sanctum Theological Association does or the schools, but also it's not so much also about okay, this is my ranking, these are my test scores, but also what is God doing and how is God is the admitting committee perceiving the call to ministry that this particular student may have, because I think that has a lot of weight as well, right? That there has to be a perceived uh, call and a firm call on a student for those students to pursue this theological education, because I don't know if you have seen it, but there will be many that fail along the way because that call was not present. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
thank you so much, Dr. Alem. So now that we got you going, uh, could you tell us about a book that has significantly influenced your approach to theology? And maybe if it's uh, by a Sanctum scholar, or maybe like by a scholar in your part of the world, or if it's not, it's okay. But a book that you could tell us about that significantly has influenced your approach to theology.
Well, I studied mission, and just that came in my mind about the book. Uh, I really enjoy and learn from a transforming mission.
Hmm.
That is a paradigm shift and the theology of mission. That's transforming mission, written by David Bosch. I really like it and I really enjoy the reading. I learn a lot from his book. In
Hmm.
fact, it is a little bit old, yet it's very applicable and even today's context in the field of the theology, or in I should say in the mission department. So I really enjoyed. And some other books, maybe Missional Church, written by Daryl L. Kuter, and the missional theology and the missional church. That subject was very interested, and I learned a lot under the I study. And Kuter came to the Yonsei University as a visiting professor, and he came and he talked. So this, of course, there are many books, many scholars, mission scholars, where I learned, but these two are very important that I really enjoyed. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alam. I think one of my favorite books on mission, I think it was called Eternity in Their Hearts. Uh,
Yes.
I really enjoy that book because it talks about how God has placed this eternity in the heart of man and has left these markers, or even it's at work in every different culture, that when missionaries would come to certain areas, even in Nagaland, I think in areas around the world, that when missionaries would come, whole communities will be ready because somehow God has spoken into their particular community that at some point there will be this news, there will be a book, there will be a person that would come to bring the good news of the gospel. So I thought that book was really interesting because just the way that that the author writes it, so the fact that like in different cultures around the world, there was already God was already at work, and people already had names for God. different names for God, and like they had to even recognize the attributes of God as a creator. So for me, that book was very influential in my missions class. So thank you, and thank you for sharing
Wonderful.
about your books. This is not one of the questions, but one of the things that got me really interested in Nagaland before 10/11, before even I met Pastor Apise, was a movie called Beyond the Next Mountain. And I think I forget the name of the person. His name was Ray, I think something. And I think he was from Myanmar, from somewhere around there. But in that movie, he is so impacted by a missionary that he goes into he goes it ends up going to seminary, ends up and even comes to study in the U.S. at some point, and ends up translating the New Testament into the language of people there. And I think it's in Myanmar. For some reason, I thought he was a Naga, but I think when I studied a little deeper, I don't know. I never understood whether he was or not. Have you heard about the the movie Beyond the Next Mountain, or this particular person? I forget the name.
I heard, but I didn't watch. But
It,
probably, I think it's from Myanmar.
Myanmar, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, probably somewhere in the Myanmar or some parts of
Yeah.
or Cambodia. I'm not quite sure, but I heard about it. Yes.
Yeah, one day when I watched that movie, I said I'm going to walk those mountains one day. So that's when I came to Yangli. I was very like my heart was so full because I was like, yes, this is similar to what I saw. So I was very happy about that. Uh, Dr. Alem, how can you tell us then? How do you see the role of a seminary professor, since you've done this? I mean, this has been your profession for a long time. Uh, how do you see the role of a seminary professor evolving in the modern world? Because your role as a professor, I imagine, has not been the same as your professors, the professors that you had when you first began your your studies. So, how have you seen that evolve, or do you see that evolving now, even with the advent of like digital learning and things like that? Even this interview wouldn't have happened like some years ago, right? So, how do you see the role of a seminary professor evolving in this modern world?
Well, we have to update every single day, which is very important. And one thing that I learned is like in the time of pandemic, COVID-19. So all the schools and institutions were being shut down. And we are being asked to conduct a class online, Zoom class. So many of the students and even the professors are not very much familiar with this Zoom class. It's not a very friendly, honestly speaking. Now, because after the pandemic, even the teachers and the professors and students now become more familiar. Now it's becoming more friendly. Or else, a couple of years back, or in the 2019, 2020, 21, you know, in fact, there was a Zoom class, these things were going on, but it was just within maybe probably in the business world. I'm not sure, but not in the institution. So we were forced to learn so that we will update. We are my ourselves. We forced to learn. So and then we started to teach to the students, and then now that's how we learn and we started to teach to the students through media using different facilities that we have. So we need to learn a lot, and one thing about this is yeah, the world is advanced every single day, and whoever, either a pastor or a professor, we need to unlearn and relearn, which is very important.
Mm,
So we should be ready to unlearn it and then relearn it so that we can give the students very update and solid information and teaching. Otherwise, sometimes a traditional understanding and perspective knowledge that we acquired is very difficult to relearn it, unlearn it. It's very difficult to delete from our mind, and we try to uh, teach or impact the students with that kind of perspective, which is actually it's not the students will never accept it. The young generation will never accept it. So to train and mold this young generation, young people in this generation, we should unlearn it, relearn it, teach them.
okay.
Maybe I'm not quite sure whether this will answer, whether I address your question or not, but
No,
yeah.
I think it does. Just the idea of deconstructing your what you believe is a teaching model or a model of reaching or a model of learning that needs to be deconstructed because the way learning is done now is different. It's not the same as it was 30 years ago or 20 years ago or even 15 years ago. The way people learn nowadays is different. So as a professor, I think, like you mentioned it very well, like we need to unlearn and relearn so that we can teach well and so that it can be received. So thank you for that. And as a professor, Dr. Alam, uh, do you believe, and I think this is a biased answer that you may give us because you are a professor, but do you believe that the role of a professor is an important one, especially a theology professor? Do you believe that this is an important role in our society, or even for the Sanctum people? Do you think that it is an important role for your people? The role of a
I
professor.
think
The role of a professor. Do you? And I know that your answer will be biased. You're a professor, but do you believe yes, do you believe that the role of a professor is an important role for your community, for your people, for the world? Uh, how would you answer that question? Or why do you
um,
believe that the role of a professor is important, a theology professor?
the theology professor is plays a very important role for my community and especially for my people. Why? Because we train and mold the future church leaders.
Mm,
So it's a very important role. That's what I feel. For instance, like in a classroom, there are 20 students, and I'm teaching to the 20 students. If my teaching, if my theology, if my doctrine, if I misinterpret the word of God, if I mislead the people in my classroom, 20 students, then just imagine these 20 students will go back to their respective churches, to the different 20 churches, and they will mislead these 20 churches.
mm,
So that's how, it's a very important role. We have to be very, the professors, we have to be very careful in our teaching, in our imparting the students.
mm.
Yeah.
Great answer, Dr. Alam. Thank you. And talking about students, then, and being a leader and being in that role, what's the most challenging aspect of training future religious leaders today? What would you say is the most challenging aspect of training future leaders today?
Well, in a nutshell, I will just respond according to my context. I'm not sure around the world, but I think this is a common problem, I guess, universal problem. But in my context, according to my context, most of the young people in this generation, they are into the social media and internet. So they play the video games, watching the YouTube, you know, So they don't concentrate even in the classroom. My experience when I was teaching in a classroom, some students, they just slip away when we have an interactive model of teaching, all this teaching. But some students are slip away. When I was checking out, whole night they were playing the video games.
Mm.
That's how I found out the students. So it's a very great challenge for today. Second thing, students in this young generation, they can concentrate hardly 10 to 15 minutes, I guess.
Mm.
That's why if you see the YouTube, in the YouTube, it's just 5 to 10 minutes YouTube, almost all the YouTube, usually. Why? Because people, this young generation can't concentrate more than that. They want to explore the new things within no time. So teaching in a classroom, maybe probably for 1 hour or sometimes 3 hours, is a long for day.
Mm.
So, it's a great challenge as a professor teaching for 3 hours in a classroom. We have to be very creative. So these are certain challenges that we face in this generation and especially in my context.
Thank you very much. Yeah, those are challenges I think universal. What you just described, I've seen them here in the U.S. as well. And I was planning to put this interview on YouTube, so maybe some of those students watching YouTube will watch this, and maybe they can comment on it. Maybe
Oh, I
they can
see.
comment. Okay. But yes,
I didn't expect-
we will
Anyway,
see.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. So, Dr. Alam, in your opinion, how can seminaries then better uh, prepare students for interfaith dialogue? I think I'm going to go out on a limb right now and make an assumption about Nagaland because when I was there, Nagaland was 94%, I think 94% Christian. I'm not sure, I don't know if that remains the same. Uh, but so I'm not sure how much interfaith dialogue there will be. But in your opinion, how can seminaries better prepare students for interfaith dialogue?
Well, interfaith dialogue involves people from different religious background coming together to engage their respect to engage to respect one another.
Hmm.
So it provides the platform for individuals to share their beliefs, their values, and express, you know, their feelings well, listening attentively to others, each other. So it's a good way of interfaith dialogue is actually in the seminary is very important. I always encourage the students and I always bring a positive minute, you know, interfaith dialogue sometimes, especially, I'm not sure in other place, but in Nagaland in India, some evangelical Christians misunderstood interfaith dialogue. They thought that interfaith dialogue is a why because India we have a multi religion Hindu, Islam, Jainism, Sikhism, Buddhism, Christianity. We have so many religion in India. So when the interfaith dialogue is being organized, then some evangelical Christians, I'm not quite sure in other world, but in Nagaland or in India, misunderstood, misconcept. It's a kind of a compromising the Christian faith. But what I said is, it is not a compromising our Christian faith. It is actually in one way we are sharing one another our ideas, our belief systems, and it is also one way of opportunity for us to tell who we are and what we are and our doctrines and our belief. And our religion or our Christianity is not a violence. And no, we don't forcefully convert the people, but we share the love of God. And those who you are being touched And those who accept Christ as their personal savior, we accept them. We never force them. So that's how actually this interfaith dialogue or so-called dialogue is about, not about compromising, but about the sharing, so that we can engage one another to respect our religion, our teaching, our doctrine, so that it will really, understand within the different religion, and it can also save us from the persecution. So in the theological seminary, we encourage to have an interfaith dialogue. And Dimapur as is a main city in Nagaland. So Dimapur Christian Forum, we call it Dimapur Christian Forum, as a Christian community from different denomination. Actually, I'm also one of the part of the Dimapur Christian Forum as an executive member. So once in a year, actually we organize this kind of interfaith dialogue from the different religion. And at the same time, the time of the Christmas, Christmas, we call it Advent Christmas celebration. And we also invite those Islams, Buddhists, Hindu, and all those people, we invite them. And also, we share our obedience one another. That's how we do that. So it's a promoting understanding between the different religions to increase, okay, acceptance and tolerance. So this is how we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not denying your own faith, right? That's not what it is.
No,
Yeah.
we don't compromise. We don't deny our own faith.
Yeah.
We stand and we tell the truth.
So maybe one example, one particular subject that you have brought to the discussion in this interfaith forums. Maybe one subject that you guys talked about that people have shared on that you remember.
Um, well, we have a particular subject taught by the other teacher, but in my teaching, when I just, touching with some kind of in mission subjects, so interfaith dialogue, say like about the salvation.
Okay.
We also talk about the salvation, the Hindu understanding of salvation, Christian understanding of salvation, and most importantly is a conversion, because we make a law about the conversion. So anti-conversion law. So this is a very you know serious matter in India. So the conversion. So this topic actually we discuss about the use mostly the conversion. We Christian don't force to convert. We don't force to convert, but it is a self decision. It is not the forcefully to a Christian you become a Christian. Something like that. We never force them. It's a self conviction and self dedication and the self commitment,
Hmm.
never forced by the Christian or by any religion.
Thank you so much for that. Uh, we're coming to the end of the tunnel here. Uh, what practices do you think do you recommend for maintaining spiritual health while in academia? Because I don't know in Nagaland or in Nagaland or even in South Korea where you studied also, but in the U.S. there's this such a thing called burnout uh, in academia. So, what practices do you recommend for maintaining spiritual health while in academia or while people are in seminary, while people are doing their THM, which is really hard, their PhD, which requires a lot of research and writing and proofreading and editing and having mentors and all of that. So, what practices would you recommend, Dr. Allen?
Um, I don't know whether I really can address your question or no, but I'm not
Maybe
sure. But maybe whether this is applicable.
maybe you can
Anyway,
tell us,
um,
maybe you can tell us what disciplines you use when you were studying to maintain your spiritual health. because there was a lot of pressure everywhere, right? For your
Yes,
studies.
exactly.
So
Besides
what kept you from going crazy? What spiritual yeah, what spiritual what did
activities,
activities or yeah or practices did you keep?
yes.
Yeah.
Beside academic exercises and pressure, in right now at a Discipleship Bible College students, we actually sometimes organize a kind of chain of prayer, chain of prayer, maybe once in a month, a chain of prayer we used to organize. Sometimes we twice in a once in a semester, once in a semester, we also organize kind of a youth retreat, youth camp,
Mhm.
spiritual activities, youth camp. And sometime we take the students outside of the college and exposure trip, and that is not spiritual exposure trip, mission exposure trip, not very far, once in a year, particular especially to the second year students. We take to the some parts of India, and that's how they can refresh beside the academic exercises, and they can do some kind of visiting some of the churches, some of the mission field, a kind of refreshing them. Those things are also, and at the time of Christmas, we go for the Christmas carol and taking the message, the love of God, and then we, take to the different places, and then sometime we also have a literary, kind of literary community is more academic, but spiritual. We usually organize even the early town prayer, but not force those who are willing. So those who are willing can come to the down prayer, and that's how this kind of spiritual activities, time and again, we organize in the seminary, so that students will not only with the academic exercises and pressure, but also relaxing some time, and also spiritual exercises, academic, and exploring not only within the college but outside of the college, going for evangelism work. We divide the group, and one group at least twice in a semester they can go outside the college seminary, and then they can do the evangelism track distribution and outreach ministry. Sometimes this kind of activities we do that.
Thank you, Pastor. And at the beginning of our interview, you mentioned that yesterday was your installation as a assistant pastor, right? How assistant
Yes,
pastor is the role or associate pastor?
we call associate pastor.
Associate. So as the associate pastor, so I know that I'm not sure if you're gonna continue to do scholar work or even writing or being in these other committees that you're in, but I'm pretty sure that in your discernment for taking this role now as a pastor outside of academia and now in ministry setting, how do you plan to balance uh, that work uh, from academia to ministry? Because ministry can be very heavy. I started planting a church 9 years ago. Uh, Actually, this next month will be our ninth anniversary, and it's been very heavy. Trying to study and doing that, but I'm not sure. How do you plan to do that? Uh, do you have a plan, or how do you anticipate? Or don't you anticipate any of this? I don't know. Can you tell us?
Oh, well, very good question, but I'm not quite sure whether I can answer this question or no.
Okay, I'll interview you
Um,
in a year and we'll see how it went.
I wish I served at least a month.
Yeah.
Anyway, academic is purely we. train the students academically, sound doctrines, theology, and all that we have to train them. I don't have I don't have a pastoral experience, but a pastor, I think, need to take care of the sheep and feed the sheep. So tending the sheep and feeding the sheep, it has to go together.
Mm.
I'm not a pastor. I'm going to be a pastor. Just yesterday only I was installed. So I
One
don't have
day
experience.
experience. Yeah, one day experience.
Yeah. I feel I feel one.
Oh, I think we lost your audio and your video. Okay, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. One day just installation experience is tending the sheep, taking care of the sheep, and feeding the sheep. So pastoral ministry is not only taking care of the sheep, but also feed the sheep. So that is very important. That's what I feel yesterday. So serving, I'm going to serve as a pastor. That doesn't mean that I should completely neglect the academic.
Mm.
To feed the sheep, I have to constantly keep in touch in book, Bible, and academic so that I can feed them. Otherwise, I'm a pastor, so I'm going to take care of the sheep, tend the sheep, then I have nothing to feed them. And I'm sure my sheep will starve and they will die. So I have to feed them with the word of God, the solid food. That's what I feel one day experience. I don't know.
And you have to feed yourself, right? So that's why you need to continue in your studies because
Exactly.
yeah, because
Exactly.
yeah, because if you don't have anything to feeding you, then you don't have the strength to care or to feed the sheep. Excellent. That one day experience, guys, take it one day, and we will see.
And from you for many years, I
Yeah.
have to learn.
Thank you, Pastor. And this last question, I'm gonna make it into two. Uh, what advice would you give someone considering studying, considering going to either Bible college or doing a master's degree in divinities or theology or ministry? What advice would you give someone that maybe is just recently feeling from the Lord that this is something that they must do, that they need to do for their lives? What advice would you give them? Like someone that is just getting this call from God to go and either join a Bible college or study a master's degrees. Because I understand that you can do a bachelor's degrees in politics or whatever, but then you can still go to do a MDiv, a master's degree, and other things, right? So, what advice would you give such a person if anybody watching this video says, I feel this call to study, to get to know the scriptures better, to study missions or to study discipleship or to study soteriology or eschatology or to study apologetics, like what advice would you give this person?
Well, according to my context, I've just bring this. Um, Many of my people, and especially in Nagaland in India, they go for the theological college, joining in the theological college after the high school graduate. But I rather suggest them you go for the graduation, either maybe graduate BA or BA Arts or political science or BSc, whatever, you go for the secular study first. Maybe you can get hold of the master degree or the graduation, whatever, and then you join in the theological college. That will really, help you, enhance you. You will know more about the Word of God because studying the Bible and theology, people think that it's very easy. But as you know that we study, it's not easy.
mm,
That's a very, very difficult. It's a very crucial. So what they have to do is, if you have a secular course, master degree, or you did a graduation, and if you come, then to join in the theological college, and you will know more, a deeper understanding of the Word of God, your interpretation of the Word of God, your quality of your preaching and teaching will be different from others. So you can have a two master degree, both secular and both theological. Then it will really, um, it will really give you kind of
mm. Yeah,
enhance your understanding, and to sharpen you much better, something like that, maybe. Yeah.
that's great advice. Thank you. And the other question, then the second part for this question would be, what advice then would you give someone considering vocation in religious service, like someone maybe like you were in academics that's now considering vocation as a minister or even as a missionary or somewhere along those lines of religious service. What advice would you give someone like that? Or maybe if you make the question more personal, what advice would you give yourself 2 days ago before you were installed as a minister?
Yes. My calling. I
It's a hard question, no?
I don't. I'm not sure how I will put. Like, I can't understand properly.
Okay,
I mean,
so
my calling from for the Christian ministry,
yes,
a kind of calling from for the Christian ministry. If you have real, what I should say, first of all, we have to confirm our calling. We have to be sure of our calling. If we are very much sure of our calling, then anywhere you go, any work, any ministry you can do. Your calling may be a missionary, so be a missionary. Your calling may be a pastoral in a church, be a pastor in that church. So we have to be sure of our calling or something like that. I'm not sure whether that answer address your question. I'm not quite sure, but is that one?
yeah, yes, it does. Sorry, my dog started acting up. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry.
no worries.
Yeah, sorry about that. Hey, quiet. Sorry. uh,
Don't worry.
I think it's a great answer to be sure of the calling of God in your life. If you're serving in any role, I think you mentioned as one of your advices for someone that's considering studying in seminary or in Bible college, that they would that they would consider first having this degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree in something secular. Because I think one of the biggest misconceptions that we have as Christians is that only those that have a degree in ministry or a degree in theology are are will be used by God. And I truly believe, I think, as you alluded to, is that if you are prepared in the secular world, whether it be an architect, a doctor, or politician, whatever, but you have God's, you have faith and you have an understanding of you're a believer, then you can be of service in anywhere you are, whether it be in politics, whether it be as an architect, whether it be as a doctor, whether it be as a bricklayer, but you can serve God where you are in that. That is your setting, that is your calling. So if if from that you're called to do ministry, then maybe like you mentioned before, okay, well then you can go to school, you can get your education in that, so you can better serve the community, and But you have to be sure, like you mentioned, that there is a calling on your life. Because I think what you wanted to highlight too is that if there is no calling, then it's going to be very hard, and it's gonna be a very rude awakening, and it's gonna it will not work out, because it is only the calling of God that keeps us standing when the hard gets harder, right? When things don't work out, when you have to turn in the next assignment, and you want to quit, but it's God's calling in your life that says no, you have to keep doing it. Or when you show up to ministry next week, or even tomorrow, or you start getting calls as now as an associate pastor, and you start realizing uh, the reality of what it is, and the burden, and the heavy burden that it is to shepherd a flock, then at that moment, when those times come, you better be ready, and you better have an understanding of what your calling is, and to know that you're not doing this for a salary. You're doing this because God is calling you to that. So I think thank you so much for your answers. Thank you for being so kind, for sharing this time with us. And I know that the people that wanted to hear you, to learn from you, from your experiences, both as the dean, and also as a professor, and now as a pastor. I'm pretty sure the people in your church are going to enjoy hearing their pastor acknowledge that, hey, I have 1 day experience, and I can share, I can assure you that I'm going to continue to feed myself so that I can feed you, and so that I can care for you. So thank you so much for your vulnerability. And is there anything that you would like to say to anybody that will watch this? Maybe you can say it in Sangtam or Naganese, whatever you want to use, just a message that you would want to share with anybody that's watching, whether it's a student of yours, whether it's a church member, whether it's a future student of any of the Sanctum institutions, or a future missionary, a future pastor, something that you want to share. You can. This is your time to share that. And
Anyway, Pastor, I really enjoy this interview. And anyway, it's recording. I was not expecting that it will record. I thought it was just a conversation. But anyway, I really enjoy it and I learned. And maybe in near future, we can have a better conversation, better kind of interview where we can prepare each other, and then we can learn. And whatever I share is just out of my experience and what I feel. And I hope that the viewers will really enjoy. And yeah, by this conversation and interview, I hope that the people will be blessed. And if there's any query, you are most welcome, all the viewers, either to keep touch, inquire, come personally or whatever. So, well, in India, maybe if this is viewed by Indian, or in my people or Naga, beshi khushi paise. Yate interview to moi to enaga expect kora nai, ni kotha korbo nai bhabise. Beshi certain hoise hole bi moi laga answer bra apna itu jawab dia bra apna kipa ekta learn kurise gole tokham bi tate I'm sure that tokham bi tate assist pabo. Aro further janibo mon thakile any freely contact kuru bare. আমি Dimapur Sangtam Baptist Church laga associate pastor hokole ase aro Discipleship Bible College to be teach kuri rakise etu karone abhando most welcome anytime kila ki problem holibi aro apnala pratana lage kolebi tribe laga nasabi ikonoe I'm willing to help you aro apna any question kumba chanimo mon thagile etu most welcome আমি খান ডিসকাশন কৰিব এনা কিমান ডিসকাস কৰে কিমান কথা কৰে ইমান আমি খান ইছলা কথা লাৰ্ণ কৰে আত্মা দে আৰু জ্ঞান দে বুদ্ধি দে আমি সব লাৰ্ণ কৰে এটো বেছি খুশি পাইছে all the viewers thank you and God bless you all yeah
all
thank
right.
you pastor
Thank you, Dr. Allen. And so leave a message Leave a comment, like this video, share this video with your friends. If you're watching this, contact Dr. Alam, or if you have a question for him and you don't know how to contact him, then just leave a comment right there, and then I'll share it with him, and I'll let him know that there's people that are interested in what he's doing, and Dr. Alem, I welcome you as a minister of the gospel to
Thank
this
you.
this vocation that is it's not well paid, but it's very rewarding. So may the Lord use you. May He give you wisdom. May He give you patience. May He give you courage. May He give you peace, and above everything, that that you would always seek His arms, that you will always seek to rest in Him, and that you will surround yourself with people that are wiser than you, with people that are more experienced than you, that you will learn from them in this new chapter of your life. Uh, that within the way that you serve the church, that you will never forget that your family is your first church, and that you're accountable to God for them, for your wife, for your children. So I bless you, and I know that you were blessed yesterday. You were presented to the church, but it never hurts. An extra blessing. So may the Lord bless you. Thank you, and thank you to everyone watching this. For the people that recommended that I interviewed Dr. Alem, thank you so much. He's great. He's great. Thank you for your recommendation. Pastor Alem, Dr. Alem, no, Pastor Alem now. Pastor Alem, uh,
Yes.
one day experience, Pastor Alem. I love you. Thank you so much. When you see Pastor Apisa, tell him I said hi. Give him a hug for me. And I want to come soon. So maybe when I come, we can go out and have some king chili salad. It's so hot.
Thank you, Pastor, for your word of encouragement and word of blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so blessed to this morning. Then, if you are coming to Nagaland in India, you are most welcome in my church. I hope you can have a good time of fellowship. So, you are most welcome. And this is a beginning of our relationship and our friendship in God's vineyard. Thank you so
Amen.
much.
God bless you, Pastor. You are my brother, and we will see each other soon. If we don't, we'll see each other in heaven. I'm very sure of that. So God bless you.
Not in heaven, on the earth we'll meet.
Okay, let's meet on earth. God bless.
Okay.
Bye.
God bless. Bye.